You are listening to The Central Cast, a podcast for mystics and misfits just like you, recorded every week in Pasadena, California, before a live audience. Thanks for tuning in.
The church, or whatever we want to call this, that we're doing and building right now. I prefer the word spiritual community, but it also feels like that can sound cultish or or at least vague in a way that arouses suspicion. So I'm going to say church. It's one syllable with a whole lot of baggage, but it's still the shorthand that we all use, right? If someone asked you, where are you going this morning? You probably wouldn't say, well, it's sort of like you would say church, just it's easier. But the thing is, when we begin to reconstruct, I think we do have to set that shorthand aside at least long enough to write out the longhand, right? What do we really mean by church? And in a kind of a moment that felt really not so much like a realization, but a concretization, a couple of months ago, I realized that this is what church is for me. Church is a gathering of people in an environment that makes it possible for them to reflect, gain insight, and connect to higher purpose. And I include connecting with community in higher purpose. I don't really think we get our higher purpose just by, sitting alone with God or meditation. It's always connecting with people. And I'm really passionate about this definition of church. Like, this is what I have given over my life to. It's sort of like the hill I will die on. That everyone, every single human being, regardless of belief system or no belief system, needs this kind of space and this kind of time. And if we can get it once a week, all the better. Now, as I started thinking about this more, I realized that I had a lot of negative thoughts that were coming into my mind. So bear with me, because there's a lot of critique here, but it's for a good purpose. And then the negativity is that I realized that the building blocks for this model of church that I want to build and that I love are all countercultural. That doesn't bother me per se, but because they're countercultural, they're sort of always endangered. And not just because of divisions within Christianity or divisions among, the religions, or because of toxic theology and toxic church practices, not just because of church trauma that many of us are recovering from. All of those things matter. But I say endangered because this model of church, where we have time to be quiet and gain insight and connect to, and sort of take time out of time to connect to something that's so much bigger than us. This all depends on reflection, which involves quiet and intention and enough emotional regulation to withstand the journey inward and the exploration of what's there. It takes practice, it takes grit. Simply put, reflection can be really hard. It's a heavy lift, and there really is very little support for it. But why do I specifically say it's in danger? Well, I would turn the question around, frankly, and ask, how is quiet reflection not in danger in our world right now? How is the world we live in, and even the world that we are moving towards very quickly, not inimical to reflection, not hostile to quiet moments of thought and feeling? When I was growing up, and I realized that me growing up is different from most people in here, maybe Abe, are we Gen X? Okay. I'm not used to being one of the elders in a church, but it's really wonderful because in previous churches, I was the youngest person by 30 years. That's the mainline church for you these days. So, anyway, when I was growing up, there were certainly distractions. TV, 4 or 5 channels, magazines, you had to go to the store to buy them. Shopping malls, that was a big one. Phone calls with friends, even with the advent of call waiting, that was an issue in the family. Video games, Atari, anyone? Nintendo came along too. So now all of that, all of it, all the things I would go to or have to, do one at a time, all of those things are in the palm of my hand, of your hand, in our phones. We can sit and watch a sitcom on the toilet. We can shop in bed. We can play video games as we shop in the aisles of supermarket. We can text and talk hands-free while we're commuting. We can tweet from a movie theater's reclining seat. It is possible for all of us, for all of our time to be occupied. We can do 24/7. And this ability gets in the way of pausing, quieting ourselves, and reflecting, right? It's really hard even for me. I mean, not even, it's hard for me to put my phone down and pick up my journal. The phone is so much easier. The gratification is instant, and I don't have to do really any hard work. So this this phone, this technology, the pace of life gets in the way of pausing and reflecting. But there's a structural component too that endangers our reflection. Perhaps all of us could agree to some level that we want our lives to have meaning and we want to stay in touch with that meaning day over day, week over week, so that we can guide our steps and feel whole and purposeful. But where is the structure or encouragement for this pursuit of meaning? I'm going to answer that question actually by way of contrast. So we might further agree that our lives, that we can think of our lives in terms of like work and family, work and household, work and friends. Those are two big facets of most of our lives, right? Take work. Work imposes a structure on us, obviously. Goals, quotas, deadlines, meetings, performance reviews, where somebody checks in on us and tells us how we're doing. A household also provides some structure. Mow the lawn, pay the rent, feed the dog, wash the dishes, and certainly kids provide structure. Nap time, bedtime, snack time, bath time, drop off, pickup, soccer practice, homework. There's no equivalent structure in our lives for reflection, for meaning making, for feeding our souls and renewing our thoughts. No institution is going to demand this of us, not our employers, not our government, not that I would propose that anyway, and certainly not the system that runs so many factors of our lives, capitalism. Capitalism does not want you to reflect. It's not good for business. And unfortunately, not even our schools are doing a good job at this. And this is where my worry first originated. Because as I said, I was an English teacher for many, many years. And I'm still involved in education. Technology on the one hand and achievement culture on the other hand have provided and continue to provide the main structures of evaluation and meaning for rising generations. Likes and views on social media, grades, acceptance letters, accolades, number of AP classes are the measure of young people's value from the world. Right? Screen time and an endless stream of assessments. I mean, when the assessments start in second grade or something, they're not countered with emotional education and self-exploration, by and large. Every school will do a little bit, so they can say they do it. But what the kids feel is that they are valued according to how they do on social media and how they do in the classroom in terms of grades, accolades, acceptance letters to college. The implied mantra of all of this is more achievement, more innovation, more money, more followers. But why? Why? We should be asking students, who are you? Who do you want to be? What is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? In the words of Mary Oliver, right? What are your values? And are they aligned with where and how you're using your intellect and your talents? By and large, we fail our students by not asking them these questions. As if these questions about value, purpose, and identity were somehow irrelevant to the project of education. Schools ask students to receive and produce, but the world, we desperately need them to reflect as well. As a writing coach, I meet students every year in a pivotal moment where the world is starting to open up to them. Rising high school seniors are asked to write essays for the colleges that they apply to, and every single one of these prompts requires self-knowledge and the ability to reflect. And in my 20 years of coaching these dear students through this process, I have seen them struggle with a process no one has prepared them for. No one prepared them to value their own life experiences and derive meaning from them. Mm. And no one prepared them to write things in the first person. I often get students who say, I've already got an essay, it's done. It's an analysis, or it's about someone else, or it's about something that didn't even happen to them, because the task of drawing meaning from their own lives is unfathomable. Some of them just freeze. Some get frustrated and angry, understandably. Most, do their best. They make their way sort of shakily through this process, kind of look metaphorically like looking over their shoulders, feeling hotly pursued by this very strange task, never fully convinced that these essays, unlike the academic ones that have been drilled into them, that these essays really are personal, that somebody really wants them to write in the first person about things that happened to them and what they made of it. And even just saying that out loud, I'm like, this is dangerous. This feels dangerous to me, to send kids out into the world, to send adolescents out without really giving them time and opportunity and structure to think about what's important to them. Too often the questions that students confront from high school to college to industry is not why or should I? It's can I? Can we? And as long as we can, how much more can we? And how fast and how profitable? I may be a little bit motivated in this talk by a particular student who has profoundly, I would say, disappointed me. He doesn't owe me anything. It was my job to teach him. He was a love to teach, right? But I'll tell you about him in a minute. But I think about my career as a whole a lot, because I thought I would die a teacher. I mean, I thought I would teach for 35 years and retire. I loved it so, so much. But I had a real problem teaching kids to just keep the system going. That was a real ethical problem for me eventually, and, you know, I tugged and tore the English curriculum, like, as much as I could to fit in and require self-exploration, ethical reflection, personal reflection, and I had some successes. Beautifully, I heard from a former student the other day. His name is Max. Oh, Max was just brilliant and good-hearted, and he's currently helping to build and lead the Public School Workers Union in North Carolina. Chef's kiss for Max. Max will change his corner of the world. He's already doing it. It was such a thrill too to reconnect with him because he sent me a video. He had been asked to keynote the No Kings gathering in his small North Carolina town, and it was the same day that I had been asked to speak at the No Kings in Glendale, so we got to exchange videos there. Another of my brightest students, though, the one that I referred to a moment ago, I think ended up following the dollar and the ego, despite the time I invested encouraging him to use his powers for good. I would always tell that, especially I'm sorry, it was especially my boy students. Pull them aside. I was like, "You're so smart. Please use your powers for good." But this kid who absolutely loved to learn helped build ChatGPT, pretty much guaranteeing that students coming after him would not learn, handicapping both their potential and the power of teachers like me to teach. Example, I thought of this kid just the other day. You notice I'm not naming him. I was teaching a graduate class on the prophet Jeremiah, and I asked the students to pause and take 10 minutes to reflect on a section of the text. These are graduate students. When we resumed, one of these students, without a hint of shame, raised her hand and she contributed her reflection by announcing that she had typed my question into ChatGPT, and here's what ChatGPT said, and she read it for the class. Like it was what I had asked her to do. No hint that anything was wrong with that. I'm not saying there can't be responsible uses for these things, but since when can we trust people to use things responsibly? Like, this is foreseen, right? So that's really not the kind of full circle moment I wanted out of my teaching career, where a student I mentored and poured into uses his giant brain to create a technology that makes it harder for my students now to learn and harder now for me to teach. But this is just one incident among many that influences my perspective on the future of church. And one of the many ways that I think we here at Central are and can be countercultural and do church differently. I think we have to create space in our gatherings and our programming for some quiet reflection for ourselves and for our children, right? At the very least, the children of Central, once they can sit still, you know, can be taught to reflect. I think I learned to reflect in church because, I should apologize to all the preachers that I wasn't listening to, and I would if I thought they had anything I really needed to hear. But every Sunday, I was one of those kids, maybe many of you were too. My parents required me to go to service. It was Sunday school, and that was fine, but I had to sit in service. And I would sit there and I would have to be quiet for this was a evangelical church. It was like an hour, hour and a half, 45 minutes of which was a sermon. But I sat there and I ate my little chicken and a biscuit crackers. And I really think that formed in me someone who could sit with her own thoughts. Because again, I wasn't listening to the preacher's thoughts. I'm not suggesting you do that here, but I think church has an important role, whatever we mean by church, that it be a time for us to kind of set aside the world a little bit and be quiet. To quote Ferris Bueller, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it. If we don't stop and look inward, we can miss it too, or lose ourselves, or wander around wondering when real life begins. Anyone had that feeling? And we're waiting for, like, when is life? So I'm here to tell you it has begun. And so let's start. I want to do just a short time of quiet reflection this morning. I have journals. You can keep these. Although I would ask if you open one and there's handwriting in it, that you would give it back. It might be something I want to keep and didn't know I had written in. And we have, um, can you help with that? These pens were taken from, I'm about to get a parking ticket. Yeah, did he already? The app doesn't work for me anymore, and oh, that's scary. Be nice to me. That's okay. Okay, back to this. The bag of pens that's going around. It's from my enormous pen drawer. Some of these pens are probably 10 years old. So, yay. Yay, Bob! Yay! Thank you, parking man! Oh, Bob isn't going to move my car, though. Okay. Some of them are 10 years old. So when you grab one, scribble a little bit. Make sure it works. And Bob was going to put a slide up. Do you know? So we're just, listen, this is your time. This is your 10 minutes. You do with it whatever you want. As an English teacher, I love to use writing to figure out how I'm thinking and feeling. Literally, just, you know, silence the inner censor and just write. Thank you, Bob. Yay. But I did think of some prompts if you want one. Think back on a time when your life was just as you want it to be. Who was around you? What were you doing? How can you get back to this moment? Write about something you've been thinking about doing because it would be meaningful, but it's also hard in some way. What is it? Why is it important to you? What would you and others get out of it? Question mark. What is getting in the way? This is my favorite. Write down a thought, feeling, idea that you've been sensing or aware of or marinating in, but you have not put it into words. Maybe because it's uncomfortable or hard. And then think about, how did it feel to write it down? What's the next step? This one I love. Super vague. What's missing? Finally, what do you love about your work, your family, or yourself? Again, you don't have to write about any of this. It's all yours. The journal is for you to take home. You don't have to share anything. We'll just set a timer for 10 minutes. What that was like for our discussion today. We could talk about what it was like for you. You can, of course, share anything that you want to share that occurred. But some other questions I'd be interested in are like, do you have a process of reflection, or just, it doesn't have to be writing, but like, what are the quiet moments that you take to kind of think about what's been going on, or, what's coming up, and kind of gather yourself in those moments? Thank you. I don't want to hear what she had to say. I was looking around and I was hoping that it didn't feel like school, which is odd because I just said school doesn't ask you to do these things, but I did when I was a teacher. So it's like it's yeah.
How that reflection is powerful.
Yeah.
There really are no words for it. And I feel like I thought those things, then you put words that I really appreciated. And then I actually didn't use one of your prompts. I'm also a teacher. I teach high school English. And so
What?
yes, girl.
Hey. Yeah.
I talked about as I'm part of an institution, right? Part of the education system. And so how do I purposefully and intentionally bring in more moments of reflection?
Yeah.
I want them to know that what they think is valued in the classrooms outside of what I require.
Yeah.
And so that's where.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. We really should talk because I have I love high school students. I love that age. There's so much they're thinking so much like they're having so many thoughts. I think we underestimate them. And I just want for there to be something. I think the key is spaces where they are not judged or evaluated, but are asked to just talk about what's on their mind. I mean, I remember during COVID, which I was not a classroom teacher during COVID, but I checked in with my colleagues that I taught at Polytechnic School, and I was like, especially my English colleagues, I was like, "What are you guys doing? How are you helping students deal with this catastrophic crisis and change in their lives?" And they were like, "We're just carrying on." And I was like, how must that feel for students to be in a pandemic and then their teachers aren't talking about it? So one of the things I think we can do is make if forget even the word reflection, but making education more relevant so that they see that there are connections between the classroom and the outside world. Not that they can't see that, but when the people that they're trusting to guide them aren't naming that, then they don't really have an opportunity to name it too. I mean, it seems like a no-brainer to me that English teachers could assign more reflective writing, but then again, it's gonna have to be graded, and so it's yeah, anyway, thank you for your comments. I'll be thinking about that question. I mean, you know, I ended up just doing what I wanted to do and then getting in trouble for it. Yeah. Shocking. Thank you, Anne. Yeah. Thank you.
I reflected on the fact that I don't reflect as much as I should.
Mm.
My family had some really catastrophic news about a year and a half ago that has changed lots of relationships in really devastating ways. And it was brutal, and I managed and I did a lot of therapy, and still I find that I avoid any quiet because I don't know what's going to come.
Yeah.
And so, but I need to not do that because that's not really going to be useful in the long run. But in the moment, it feels like, there's this wave waiting to overwhelm me. And I can keep it at bay by watching one more episode of a stupid show.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've been vaguely thinking about this. And then, when you suggested just writing what you're thinking about, I'm thinking about the fact that I'm trying not to think about things. So
That's a start, right?
yeah.
And
I'm not good at it naturally anyway.
Mhm.
I'm much better at analytical thinking, debating, interesting issues. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
But I'm not good at daily routine of, or even weekly or whatever.
Yeah.
Of journaling or having quiet.
Yeah.
I'm just not good at that in the best of times.
Yeah.
Because when things are okay, I don't need to do that. And when they're not okay, it's too hard to do that. And
Yeah.
so therapy kind of fills that a little bit
Yeah.
because it kind of forces me to have that
Yeah.
time. But yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Therapy's great. I mean, that is a kind of structure, right?
Yeah.
You have to pay for it. It's
Exactly.
not just like
Costs a lot more to
provided to
journal.
you, but therapy can provide that structure. I just hired a life coach, which is not therapy, but I did it specifically because I was like, I need to be writing more. I need to be journaling more because I always feel better in some way after I do, but I need someone to like hold me accountable to that.
Yeah.
And there's a there's an essay that I really like by a guy named William Dershowitz called Solitude and Leadership. And he makes a really good argument for solitude. And I love that one of his definitions of solitude is talking to a really good friend. So it doesn't always have to be, you know, alone with your journal or alone with your thoughts or paying a therapist, you know? Find someone in your life, cultivate a relationship where you can say anything to one another. And that's a form of solitude because and there's a little bit of a buffer with somebody else there as long as they're safe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Thanks.
I think today was really interesting. All of it. And it brought up so many different thoughts for me. Because that's like some reflecting and stopping and like being just breathing for a second has always been really hard for me. And it was like a major thing that my therapist and I have focused on over like the last year. And I think there's a million different reasons maybe. I think you touched on it a little bit about how like it's this like instant gratification system that's been
Yeah.
built since like the rise of social media. Like I find myself even like the walk from my car to my apartment, I'm like, let me throw on a podcast while I
Yeah.
walk up the stairs. Let me look at a TikTok while I'm walking upstairs. And I'm trying to break out of it by like filling that time with reflection and reading. You know, like I've been really busy over the last couple months, which is great. It's awesome. But I've used it as an excuse to like not journal because I'm like, oh, I don't have the time. But the funny thing is, I bring my journal with me. Every time I go to town, I pack it in my backpack.
Mm.
And I'm like, oh, when I'm in my hotel room after work, I'll journal.
Yeah.
And I don't.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm so tired and it's whatever. But I think recently I came home and I went out with a friend and like you just said, it was like that. He asked me like, what's new? How are you? And then it was just all came. And it felt nice to say some of the things I've been thinking about that I had been like running away from to write down.
Yeah.
And it made me go like, I guess I should start journaling again, you know? And I think like, this is me putting on my woke hat, but I think what I kept thinking about throughout the talk was like, what I have, and this has been on my mind for the past couple of weeks, that like American society is so funny and interesting because I think there's this big lie, or maybe not a lie, maybe it's like a hope and a dream about how America is so individualistic and we're all about the individual and about being your own person and not letting anybody tell you what to do and stand blah, blah, blah. But then at the same time, we have these structures and these systems that are built to stop us from thinking and stop us from like actually being individualistic because that's dangerous to those in power, right? If you actually stop for a second to be like, why am I doing this? I actually don't want to do this. I actually want to think, then it's like, well, then these systems collapse and that's not good, right? And then, you have a bunch of different things that keep you in place. And I think America has figured out a fun little way to make it like religion and, education and work and social rules that all keep you in there. And so it's like, so as I reflect on myself, I'm like, I blame that, or I blame the fact that I'm like the oldest in my family. And that was like imposed on me from a young age of like, you always have to measure your life by success and like one of my biggest things that I've been working on is like, I think I've talked about this before, like how do I measure what a successful day looked like for me? And it's hard because like this new job I got, I'm an assistant producer at a production company. And that's such a funny title because it's like, what the hell does that even mean? Right. And as I sit there on my desk sometimes and my day consists of me like, what could we do? And that's like 8 hours of me just being like, what's a project we could do? And I'm like, as I'm leaving for the end of the day, I'm like, did I just scam this company? Like, am I just getting paid to dream? Which is like, that was what I wanted.
Yeah.
But now that I'm there, I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I don't think I was like productive at all today. But then I'm like, well, no, but that's what I'm getting paid to do. That's what I'm here for, is for my ideas and my point of view. And what I've started to do now that I'm really hoping, I'm saying this out loud so I can stick to it, is measuring, just stopping myself from measuring my days through success. Like it doesn't doesn't have to be a successful day. I can just go throughout my day. And that's been really hard to like, now that I don't have to worry about freelancing or my shifts run past 5 or whatever. And now I'm just like 9 to 5 and then I get home and I'm like, this is my time and I can do it with it whatever I want. And that's been really strange.
Yeah.
But I've been trying to fill it with reflecting and I fancy myself a writer, and what has been really hard for me is I haven't written in a long time. And now that I've sat down to write, I'm like afraid of the reflecting part of writing, which is so funny because that's the whole point of it. Yeah. Right. But like, as I'm writing, in between writing bits in the screenplay, I'm like, oh, this sucks. I can't. Yeah. I'm like, I should, and that's the whole point of it. I should be thinking about the characters, but I'm like, I wish I just had it formed. I wish I didn't have to stop and think.
Yeah.
And that's what I wrote about, is that I was reflecting on a time when I felt when was like a good time for me and who was around me. And I kept thinking like, but what made that? Yeah, sure. I could be like, oh, the friends and the structure or whatever. But I think what it really was is, I think the time that I felt like things were the way they were supposed to be was when my friends and I were in film school and we were dreaming. Like this idea of what we wanted the industry to be, this idea of what we wanted our lives to be. And it's only been a year since I graduated, a little over a year. And I think like technically things are better because I have stability. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't think I'm dreaming as much as I used to, because now I'm around industry vets who are all like, industry's dying, man. It's a bad time to be in it. And I keep thinking like, what do they know though? Like it's different from what they came up in. It's just different. And now they think that that's, so anyway, this is a long-winded way of me saying that like the lesson that I learned from what I wrote was that I need to dare to dream again. And that was my big reflection, is that like, I should just write and create because I'm dreaming that in the dream. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think that's what I'm missing. And that's what I need to get back to.
So. I love that. Ooh. You need to get back to dreaming again. I love it. And journaling can become its own burden. And when I get that way, I just tell Julie one sentence before bed. And that sentence could be, today I did the following. Still a check-in. I think we probably need to wrap it up. Is that good? Anyone have anything to add? Cool. Oh, let's do our benediction. As we go from this place, we commit ourselves to the path of love, honesty, and humility. We dedicate ourselves, as Christ did, to the cause of justice and the courageous embrace of this life, this world, and each other. Amen. Go in peace. Have a nice Sunday.
Thanks for listening in on this week's edition of the Central Cast. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you join us next time. Bye-bye.